the singing of our national anthem. Before we get into the heart of the agenda, I want to acknowledge, of course, our flags in front of the town office are at half-mast and have been so since late last week, as we are in the unfortunate position of having lost one of our own staff members to a tragic incident. At this time, I want to acknowledge that and I think I speak for the entire council and staff of the town of Drayton Valley, and I just want to acknowledge that our thoughts and prayers are with the family, and we wish them Godspeed in coming to terms with this awful event. With that, item 1.0 is additions to the agenda. Are there any additions? Seeing none, take a motion to adopt the agenda. Councillor Frederickson, all in favor? That is carried. Item 3.0 is corrections or amendments to the July 19th regular meeting of council minutes. Any corrections or amendments? Councillor Bossert.
Are you going to miss this, sir? Correction to 6.4, which in the conditions for Resolution 127-17.6, the wording for the sentence pertaining to the $100 per lot endorsement fee has been worded incorrectly, or is unclear at any rate.
Sorry, can you review that again? 6.4?
Item 6.4, point 6, it says the developer is to pay an endorsement fee of $100 per lot, 2 lots for a total of 200, and there's a problem with the parentheses as well as with the wording.
I think the word "for" might be missing there. So with that correction, then are there any others? Okay. With that correction, could I get a motion to adopt the July 19th, 2017 regular meeting and council minutes as corrected? Councillor Bossert. All in favor? That's carried. All right. Item 5.0 on our agenda is a proclamation for International Youth Day, which is to be August 12th this year, so later this week. And it's my honor to make this the following proclamation. Whereas the United Nations defines the world's youth as the age group between 15 and 24 years old, making up 1/6 of the human population. And whereas the United Nations has established International Youth Day on August 12th each year to recognize efforts and achievements of the world's youth in enhancing global society, and whereas International Youth Day aims to promote ways to engage youth in becoming more actively involved in making positive contributions to their communities, and whereas Drayton Valley is a community of actively involved youth who engage in diverse areas of interest, including the arts, sports, and intellectual pursuits, which in turn help to shape the growth of their community. Now therefore, I, Glenn McLean, Mayor of the Town of Drayton Valley, do hereby proclaim August 12th, 2017 as International Youth Day in the Town of Drayton Valley. And moving on to item 6.0 is delegations. We have an administrative update, second quarter financial update, and this is a relatively new thing that this council has introduced in an effort to achieve greater accountability and transparency in our budgeting process. So, Mr. McMillan, take it away.
Function by function basis, most functions are running positive variances at this point, particularly general operating as well as culture. These are thanks to mainly timings of revenue received. Big variances, there is some extra work required for some of our sewer projects, so that has put transportation slightly below expectations, but it's well within our expected variances, even as the year progresses.
Right.
You guys have any comments or questions?
Any questions or comments from council? Councillor Frederickson.
Thanks, Kevin. So you had said there's 139,000 lower expenses. Is that just a culmination of a bunch of little expenses that have been kind of lowered and put together, or is there one particular thing that can attribute that?
Primarily, it would have been the snow and ice removal was well under budget, even after we revised them. So that provided most of that relief. The rest of them kind of ended.
Thank you. Anything further? Councillor Long.
Thank you. Just the obvious follow-up question there is that you said revenue had increased a little bit. Can you give us an indication of where that came from?
It's mainly timings of grant being received but slightly ahead of expectations. It's not really a function of operation at this point.
Right. Great. On behalf of council, I'd like to extend our appreciation to yourself and to administration generally for doing what we've asked in the budgetary process, and that is holding expenses and finding opportunities for cost savings whenever possible while maintaining service. So it's a bit of a juggling act. We appreciate that, and we appreciate the work that you do. You just cracked the whip. Yeah, right. Okay, good. Thank you very much. Who says numbers can't be fun? All right, 7.0 is the beginning of our decision items. We have a lengthy list today, and I'll go first to Ms. Dreesen, the Forest Skate Park Jam Insurance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just following, of course, the proclamation of the International Youth Day, the Community Services Department is planning an event here for August 11th, so just short of the August 12th International Youth Day. Forest Skate Park Jam, we hosted one last year, and we had quite a few participants, 35, and about 40 spectators also in attendance that day. So the event itself is, of course, a number of different categories of skateboarding and with the scooters and BMX bikes, etc. They're going to do a graffiti art wall again, some demonstrations with skateboarding, and of course always those wonderful trick performances. A little bit of music and of course some refreshments also in attendance there. The reason for the request to council is for a resolution supporting this event as an insured event, which then of course means that we are recognizing it as a town event and as such does not require separate insurance. So we do this for quite a few of our other events such as Canada Day, etc. So requesting council to endorse the event, allowing us to have the town's insurance cover this event, otherwise we're looking at an additional cost.
All right. Thank you very much. Any, I guess before we have discussion, we better have a motion. Council prepared to make a motion? Councillor Bossert?
I move that council endorse the Forest Skate Park Jam as an activity insured under the Town of Drayton Valley's insurance coverage.
Great. Thank you, Councillor Bossert. Now we can have a discussion. Any discussion on the motion? Councillor Frederickson and then Councillor Long.
Ms. Dreesen, could you give us an idea of what the numbers were last year for this event?
We had 34 participants and about 40 spectators, and then of course the staff members on top of that.
Councillor Long.
Thank you. I absolutely support this, and happy to see this coming forward. A more general question for administration, and I don't necessarily need an answer right now, but some indication of what events we're able to extend insurance coverage to and what we're not would be useful, I think, perhaps at GNP later today or at a future meeting. I just would be interested in knowing that.
Anything further? Councillor Bossert?
I think I read in the background that the RISE project will also be involved with the skateboard jam day, and I'm just, I think it's a great pairing, a good partnership with this project and with this fun event, and I suspect that our numbers will be higher than they were last year, so good luck with the event.
Thank you. Anything further? Okay, we have a motion before us. All in favor? That is carried. Item 7.2, Ms. Dreesen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Similar to the skate park jam, the 2017 Drayton Valley Zombie Run is a very popular event happening this fall. And thanks to the River Valley Players Association and a number of volunteers, that event happens each year underneath our Community Services Department. So again, we give a great round of thanks out to the River Valley Players Association for their help with this. So again, similar to the previous request, this event is running underneath the department, and therefore we're looking for a resolution by council so that it is recognized as an insured event. I know that within the description it talks about the planned events and sort of like a scare 7 level, so if you take that from 1 to 10, yeah, I guess it could be enough of a scare, but they also know that when the young kids come by, they're not supposed to do everything that they're tempted to do with the older kids. So, of course, same sort of thing, music, DJ, some food, provisions, and, of course, on-site first aid. But great attendance. I think the media also picks up on some great pictures from the event too. So they really go all out with this event. So again, just requesting council to endorse this event under our insurance.
Good, thank you. Council prepared to make a motion? Councillor Long?
Thank you. I move that council endorse the 2017 Drayton Valley Zombie Run as an insured activity of the town of Drayton Valley.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Councillor Bossert?
I'd just like to say I know that one of our aims for Drayton Valley is to add capacity to groups and to support them however council is able to do so. And I know that the River Valley Players has blossomed in the last number of years. I think that they have been able to do many activities with our youth in the community, as well as great plays and performances for all residents of the community. So if we can support them by simply endorsing the event, I'm totally in favor.
Thank you, Councillor Bossert. That very well said, and I echo those comments. These last two motions are excellent examples of capacity building in our community. And so is there any further discussion on the motion? All right, all in favor? That's carried. Item 7.3 is the October 2017 regular meeting of council, and Mr. Diven.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In the ongoing review from Legislative Services and Corporate Services on all matters related to policy, it was brought to my attention that the regularly scheduled meeting of council for October 11th is in fact not compliant with an existing council policy. That's policy CO214, which is in council's agenda package on that is page 18 of 109, that states that there will be no regular meeting in the month of October prior to a general municipal election. So in keeping and ensuring that council is compliant with its own policies, we needed to research out some remedies for council for this particular matter. There are three options, basically, that council can consider going forward. One, of course, is to change the policy that then would allow for the previously scheduled meeting to occur. Second option would be for council to cancel that meeting to remain compliant with the existing parameters of the policy and only cancel the meeting. And the third would be to cancel that meeting and look at rescheduling that regularly scheduled meeting for an alternative date that would be compliant with the policy. That would be a meeting prior to the start of October of this year. And so we wanted to bring this forward to council. Certainly from an administrative perspective, our recommendations would be that for this purpose, changing the policy to remain compliant is not necessarily the most preferable option, nor is canceling the meeting without looking at makeup time, if you will, in that from administration's perspective, council has and will continue to have for the coming months a very busy agenda, and the loss of legislative time would potentially be problematic as we look later in August and into the month of September. So with those options, one possible option that has been scoped out, but it would be council's prerogative to take a look at the regularly scheduled meeting dates currently in September, of which there is one. Also look at rescheduling that to then accommodate two meeting dates for council within the month of September proper. And then there would be no regularly scheduled meeting in October 2017, thereby maintaining compliance with the policy.
Thank you, Mr. Diven. Do I have a motion from council? Councillor Wheeler.
Thank you. I move that council amend council meeting agenda and public hearing policy C0214 to delete the statement there will be no regular meeting in the month of October prior to a general municipal election from the procedural section, subheading time, date, location of meetings of the policy.
Okay. So is that option C? that, yes, okay. All right, we have a motion before us. Any discussion on the motion? Councillor Frederickson.
Councillor Wheeler's always a surprise. I'm not sure how I would proceed from here, but I would prefer to keep that policy in place and look at rescheduling the meetings. And I'm not sure where to go from there.
What I did, so what I take from your comments is, although you may not be in favor of the motion that was made, you might be interested in making another motion, or potentially amending the current motion, although I'm not sure. Not sure how we would do that. Yeah, yeah. Oh, this is discussion. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Mr. Dibben, did you have any input?
There is a motion on the floor, Mr. Mayor. The options, of course, the chair has called for discussion and comment on the motion. That has commenced. Any other councillor is able to amend the motion. However, an amendment generally must follow the general intent of the motion.
Right.
So an amendment that does not adhere to the general intent of the motion would, in effect, be out of order.
That's where I was
That's
stuck.
right. And then it would be a matter for council to address the motion before it. Depending on the will of council, then the matter would either be solved or there would still be an issue before council.
In which case another motion might be entertained. Right. Councillor Frederickson, did you have another question or comment?
Prior to calling the question, I wouldn't mind hearing from Councillor Wheeler as to why you made the motion on C.
Yep. I was just, yeah. I'm catching up. Councillor Wheeler.
Thank you. In looking at the purpose, my question was definitely to ask administration during our discussion if there is a specific purpose for not having a meeting in October. I think that when we look at business as usual through the town, it is a very busy time, and we don't take breaks over the summer or over spring break or when any other time falls. I understand that there is elections and potential for people to be rerunning, but I also think that if we look at hosting a meeting in September 27th, we'll still have nomination papers in for people that are running, so it would still be the same thing. I think that if we're looking at the potential for people to hurry things through or campaign, it's still there. So I think that in lieu of best interest of the town, that it's better that we keep our regular meeting. If we skip a meeting in October, that means it's, until the next one happens, it's almost a month. And for administration or if people are looking at development permits or anything else, that's a long time for them to wait. So I'm in favor of keeping things for the town as regular as possible. But I'd like to know how everyone else
Yeah.
feels.
Thank you, Councillor Wheeler. Sorry. Councillor Bossert.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Although I am not in favor of changing the schedule, or, sorry, amending the policy, and even if we did and rescheduled, it would be a conflict for myself, as I would miss what would be the last council meeting. I'd like to ask of administration if anybody can give me depth into why we have this sentence. What is the purpose of restricting that last month's worth of council meetings before an election? There may have been a very good reason for this statement. I personally do not recall it.
Mr. Dibben, and I have some recollections to share with council as well. All right, thank you. You may recall in 2015, when this provision was approved, was as an accountability measure, one of many that we've considered and approved over the course of this term. But as an accountability measure, the level of the experience in the past has been, certainly not with all councillors, but it has been that there's a level of grandstanding that occurs in the month of October prior to Election Day. And this was an effort to mitigate against that. Councillor Wheeler makes a good point that nomination day will have already arrived, and under the proposed schedule, there would still be another council meeting in the month of September after nomination date. And that's a good point to make. I think, as with most policies, you cannot cover every eventuality, but you can attempt to mitigate against behavior that is frankly not conducive to a open and free election. So, Mr. Dibben, did you have anything to add to that?
Both to Councillor Wheeler and Councillor Bossard's questions, I'm not sure I or any member of staff could give historical thinking into administration's prerogative at the time. Just looking at where we're heading, from an administrative perspective, I have competing arguments on the side of any of these options, simply because, as I mentioned earlier, with a number of initiatives that are currently underway, all legislative time that we have is, I think, warranted and desirable. But we also, in efforts to look at cost mitigation and aspects as we get into election planning, and some of those issues are later on council's agenda, that we are looking at mitigating costs by sourcing volunteer support and staff, and some of the same staff members that whose daily and ongoing duties are in support of council and its legislative processes are also individuals that are going to be heavily involved in the election planning and undertaking those activities. So there are merits to whatever approach and challenges just in terms of staff time and activities in the coming months along those lines from administration's perspective. So,
Right. Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Any other councillors wish to speak to the motion? No? All right. I'll call the question. All in favor? All opposed? That is defeated. So we still have an issue before us. Do I see any other motions? Councillor Frederickson.
I move that council cancel the regular meeting of council scheduled for October 11th, 2017 and September 20th, 2017, and that council schedule regular meetings of council for September 13th, 2017 and September 27th, 2017.
All right. Thank you, Councillor Frederickson. Do we have any discussion on this motion? None? All right. I guess we're all talked out. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, that is carried. Thank you. I like the new system. It's less predictable, and that's healthy for democracy. Yeah. All right, moving on to 7.4, appointment of returning officer. As has been well established by now, we have an election coming. And Legislative Services Coordinator Chandra Dyke will speak to that.
Thank you. Good morning. Yes, in case anybody doesn't know, election's coming October 16th. So I'm just prefacing my following three reports by saying election day October 16th, nomination day September 18th. And for anyone that isn't aware, elections are governed by the Local Authorities Elections Act. So when I'm referencing an act, that's what I mean. So initially, we're looking for the appointment of the returning officer. The Act does stipulate that if council does not by resolution appoint a returning officer, the secretary, also known as the CAO, is automatically appointed to that position. In terms of transparency, we're bringing this forward to council to make the determination who to appoint. There are two options. One is to appoint from within. So that means either the CAO or another member of administration to run the election. There is some cost savings in doing that. In terms of, as Mr. Dibben indicated, we're trying to mitigate costs, and that would help to do that. The other option is to hire from an external company or individual, which we have done in the past, but there is a cost associated with that. So the recommendation from administration is that Mr. Dibben, our CAO, be appointed by resolution of council to act as the returning officer for the 2017 general election.
All right, thank you. Does council wish to make a motion to this effect? Councillor Dirksen.
I move that council appoints, in accordance with Section 13 of the Local Authorities Election Act, Chief Administrative Officer of the Town of Drayton Valley, Mr. Dwight Dibben, as the returning officer of the 2017 general municipal election for the Town of Drayton Valley.
Thank you. Any discussion on this motion? Councillor Frederickson?
Forgive me for not really understanding the ins and outs of an election. I'm just wondering, or looking for feedback. Returning officers' duties, would there be any conflict of duties between what the returning officer is to do and our CAO? And also, do you foresee in our CAO doing those duties that his duties as CAO, or this might go to you, Dwight, on this one, might falter?
So before I go to Chandra and then to Dwight, I just point out that, I don't know how to say this delicately, it matters not. And the reason I say that is because the province has, in their infinite wisdom, determined that this will be an option in their legislation. And in fact, the position defaults to the CAO unless we appoint otherwise. So the legislature, again, in their infinite wisdom, has already passed judgment on that issue. So I'm going to go to Chandra.
I can't speak to Mr. Dibben and his feeling in terms of this additional duty, but I can say that he has some amazing deputies helping him out. As the Legislative Services Coordinator, I'm involved in a lot of the preparation for the election, so a lot of the lead up can be handled without a lot of impact to Mr. Dibben. He's the approving authority. If he's selected as the RO, he would approve everything that we're doing, but in terms of the groundwork, getting it done, administration deals a lot with that. So we try to limit the impact, but I would let him speak more to
Mr. Dibben.
on that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And actually, thank you, Deputy Mayor, for the question, because I think it's an important one to voice. Capacity, and I wouldn't just say in my own duties, capacity is and continues to be a challenge for the town, given our fiscal state and the very appropriate oversight that council through budgeting has brought to needing to balance services and our expenditures with our revenues and with the economic realities that the community is facing. That has necessitated making choices. I feel very fortunate for a couple of reasons that I have a very capable and talented staff to serve as deputy returning officers in Ms. Dyke and also in Ms. Jennifer Stone, who is on staff and will be serving in that function as well. Also, we have the benefit of gaining some experience and some insight from the municipal by-election that was held earlier this year that allowed us to, in a more localized and smaller undertaking, to have a bit of a dress rehearsal, if you will, for the fall general election that was of invaluable benefit to myself and I think a number of other volunteers and staff members who I think the majority of which, maybe one or two exceptions, have enthusiastically indicated that they wish to participate as well in the fall. And so with that, I feel very confident that we can balance the competing aspects and elements, and I know with the balance of the staff and the leadership team as well, that if my attention has to be focused otherwise for the purpose of the election activities and election day, that I have very capable and competent staff that can back up and take on those duties in an acting capacity, which I don't have any hesitancy to do to put enacting in place formally, even when I am on site or in the community, to ensure that those duties are properly oversaw.
Thank you, Mr. Tibbin. Anything further? On this? All right, we have a motion in front of us, or before us, sorry. All in favor? That is carried. Item 7.5 is the advance vote for the 2017 general municipal election. Chandra.
As in the past, the town has the option of hosting a advance poll day pursuant to section 73 sub 3 of the Act. This allows people who may not be able to or able to attend on election day, or who just are very excited and keen and want to come in. They have the option during a shorter period. It is a bit of a shorter day, but it allows them to come in and cast their votes early. So in order to do that, council is required to pass a resolution to authorize the newly appointed returning officer to set the dates and time for that to occur. Typically, just so council's aware, that does take place here in the town office. It seems to work quite well. We have a little setup in the back that we've established as being fairly effective. It's accessible to all, so if council's in favor of allowing that to happen, we can establish that date, and we will make every effort to advertise through the paper, the town's website, social media, and all our available forums to let folks know about that advance date.
Thank you. Is council disposed to making a motion? Councillor Frederickson, saw your hand first.
I move that council authorize, in accordance with Section 73 of the Local Authorities Election Act, an advance vote for the 2017 Town of Drayton Valley General Municipal Election.
Thank you, Councillor Frederickson. Any discussion on the motion? Councillor Dirksen?
I wasn't a resident of Drayton Valley in the last general election. I was just curious, was there an advance poll in the last election, and do we know how many people took advantage of that? In general, I am in favor of having the advance poll, though.
Shannon?
Yes, during the last general election, we did have an advance poll. I honestly couldn't tell you how many people came. There were a couple of hundred throughout the day, so it was a good turnout.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Councillor Long?
Yeah, I just want to speak in support of this. I think it's important to give people the opportunity to vote whether they're in town or not on election day. So it seems a worthwhile step.
Anything further? Okay. All in favor? That is carried. 7.6, incapacitated elector and home voting for the 2017 general municipal election. If we don't know by now, there is an election coming in October. And Chandra, once again.
After this, I'll stop talking about the election for a while, for today. As again, in past, we have offered this service to our local residents. For those who are physically unable to attend it, either the advance day or on election day, we do have individuals who will be going out to the institutional polling stations, and we can schedule to attend at local residences, those physically unable to attend, to allow them to vote as well. There are requirements that they do need to pre-arrange with us, because we do need to establish times so that we can properly organize our staff. But if council's willing to pass a resolution to allow that to happen, we will definitely make that public so that everyone's aware, and those individuals who want to avail themselves of that service can certainly get in contact with us.
Thank you. And is council disposed to make a motion? Councillor Bossert?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that council approve the incapacitated elector at home voting for the 2017 general municipal election to occur during election day, October 16, 2017.
Thank you, Councillor Bossert. Any discussion on this motion? Councillor Dirksen, then Councillor Bossert.
Just out of curiosity, do we expect this to be a fixed or variable expense? So if we have one person or 50 people, how is that going to kind of affect the overall expenditures of this moving forward?
Mr. Dibben?
We would anticipate, Chandra could correct me if I'm wrong, I think historically there has not been a very significant uptake of the service. As the requirement is, if this is to be undertaken, that we would have to have a couple of deputy returning officers attend. Part of the reason why we want to ensure that we have at least 2 DROs in place that would have to attend. It would be done during Election Day, and so we would view this to ensure that we have enough volunteer support and different aspects to staff the main polling station, as well as, if required, then accomplish this as well. So other than perhaps the expenditure related to an additional ballot box, for that purpose, very minimal incremental cost to the service.
Thank you. I'm going to go to Councillor Bossert and then Councillor Wheeler.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As a councillor, I think it is of paramount importance that we give our residents every opportunity to vote, whether it's in early ballots or through this incapacitated elector at home voting. It enables those who wish to vote the ability to do so, regardless of mobility or location. Although it's not been highly accessed in the past, it is available, and I think that that's important for our residents to know. I happen to live in a part of town where there are a number of seniors with limited mobility. They do not live in institutions, they live at home, and I would be glad to know that all of those residents who could not get themselves out to polling stations have this option available to them for voting on Election Day.
Thank you, Councillor Bossert. Councillor Wheeler.
Thank you. I know that we have in the past gone around to some of the seniors' lodges and things like that, so it kind of isn't the same level as this. But for this, is there still a definition of what requires them to be considered incapacitated?
Chandra?
They are required to be physically unable to leave the residence and attend at the polling stations. So, and we rely on them to tell us that we're not going to challenge. And in the past, I think anecdotally, the most we've had is 2. So, in terms of adding that to the time that the institutional polling clerks are out, it's really not a huge tax. No.
Thank you. Anything further? Councillor Long.
One probably final point. This took longer than you expected, didn't it? Councillor Wheeler touched on this, but I'm right in thinking that we go to the Seniors Lodge anyway. They get a separate, and the other Sunrise Village also.
We actually attend at the 5 seniors' residences: the Sunrise Hospital, the Extended Care, the Lodge, Leisurely, and Wishing Well Apartments.
Anything further? All right. We have a motion before us. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Thanks very much, Chandra. Item 7.7 is the weed inspector appointment. Acting Director of Engineering and Development, Sonia Rigglesworth. Is there an election this fall? Oh, sorry. We'll pass that. Yeah.
Good morning. The town holds an agreement with Brazeau County for the supply of weed control services. And on May 17th, 2017, the town appointed Mr. Sean Allen and Ms. Jessa Muth from Brazeau County as weed inspectors for the town of Drayton Valley as per the Alberta Weed Control Act. Mr. Kurt Roshan was recently hired by Brazeau County as the Assistant Agricultural Fieldman and was appointed as weed inspector at the Brazeau County Council meeting July 18th, 2017. In order to use Mr. Roshan to provide our weed control services, the town is required to appoint Mr. Kurt Roshan as another weed control inspector. So administration is recommending that council appoint Mr. Kurt Roshan as weed inspector for the town for 2017 as per the Alberta Weed Control Act.
All right. Thank you. Is council disposed to making a motion? Councillor Long.
Thank you. I move that council appoint Mr. Kurt Rochon as weed inspector for the town of Drayton Valley for 2017 as per the Alberta Weed Control Act, in addition to those individuals appointed at the May 17th, 2017 regular meeting of council.
Thank you, Councillor Long. So we have a motion before us. Any discussion? Councillor Frederickson.
Not necessarily a discussion on this motion, but I just wondered, Sonia, if you could just quickly walk through what the process is. So to my understanding, Brazeau County inspects town of Drayton Valley for noxious weeds. They're not necessarily putting on any weed control substance. Am I right in that? And then my other question is do we get a report at the end of a certain time period where we can still address weed issues then in Drayton Valley?
The weed inspections are just to inspect for noxious weeds, and there are letters sent to those landowners to advise of the requirement to contain and control the weeds. Sorry, that's the report.
Right. Anything further? All right, we have a motion before us. All in favor? That is carried. All right. Item 7.8 is Alberta Culture Days, Chamber of Commerce road closure request. Sonia.
On September 30th, 2017, the Drayton Valley and District Chamber of Commerce, along with the Ag Society, Eleanor Pickup Arts Center, and local businesses are planning to host an event on 51st Street between 51st Avenue and 52nd Avenue in celebration of the Culture Days. The Chamber is requesting a road closure of this area to vehicular traffic, which allows the vendors and the local individuals and organizations to set up booths in their markets to sell and display their wares and perform demonstrations. So administration is recommending that council makes a motion to allow the Drayton Valley and District Chamber of Commerce to hold the event on September 30th on 51st Avenue, 51st Street, between 51st Avenue and 52nd Avenue, and allow for the closure of the road between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m.
Thank you. Is council disposed to making a motion on this? Councillor Wheeler.
Thank you. I move that council approve the closure of 51st Street between 51st Avenue and 52nd Avenue on Saturday, September 30th, 2017, between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. for the purpose of Drayton Valley and District Chamber of Commerce hosting a cultural days market with displays, demonstrations, and vendor booths.
Thank you very much. We have a motion before us. Any discussion? I have Mr. Dibben and then Councillor Frederickson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just for council's information, upon receipt of the request from the Chamber of Commerce, the Chamber was requested to identify for the town just what the feeling would be by affected businesses. The Chamber undertook a survey of the businesses along the stretch that is being requested for closure. The summary was included just on that result on page 39 of council's agenda package, but there are 19 businesses that would be directly affected in the closure zone. 9 were supportive. I believe 9 are not open regularly on Saturday, and so accordingly they were not concerned by the closure, and there was only 1 expression of opposition. And so with that, and we appreciate the Chamber undertaking that due diligence because we had a feeling council would either want to know or ask about what that aspect of this would be. That has led us to our recommendation of council for supporting the initiative, and past president of the Chambers in the gallery today, and I just would also extend our appreciation to them for undertaking this this work in advance of the request.
All right, thank you. Councillor Frederickson.
Yeah, I had similar comments. Just thank you very much for the Chamber for their efforts on this. And I'm just happy to see that something like this is coming forward. To my recollection, this was the purpose of the downtown revitalization, to get people to have it more walkable and get down there. And it's great that we're seeing that we're utilizing this, especially for something as popular as Culture Days.
Thank you. Yeah, we've seen a few opportunities, Alberta Culture Days. The Tour of Alberta is a notable example as well, so it's good to see continuation of this sort of thing. Councillor Bossert.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Of course, I very much endorse this decision if it passes. Once again, it is building capacity for the Chamber of Commerce and for activities within the community that support culture. And for me, I know that we have an incredibly diverse and broad cultural base in our community, and I know that that will see its expression on these cultural days in September. I want to mention to the media that might be present that the proper name for the Eleanor Pickup Arts Centre is the Eleanor Pickup Arts Centre. I heard it mispronounced on the radio this morning. Again, I heartily endorse this motion.
All right. Anything further? All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Item 7.9 is bylaw 2017-09D, amendment to land use bylaw, amending bylaw 2012-5D with respect to retail liquor stores. Mr. Dibben and Jan Martin, I'll start with Mr. Dibben.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. With respect, I'll be referring to in Council's agenda package, starting on page 44, and then continuing on through a number of offset maps that takes us to page 53. The genesis of what you have proposed before you today takes us back to 2015 in response to community concerns that had been raised within the community and certainly to council on the number of liquor stores within the town of Drayton Valley. In addition to undertaking a review of sections of the land use bylaw, administration also commenced a more comprehensive review of our land use bylaw, and certainly that work continues. But also in support of these particular elements that were highlighted as an issue to council, council had requested that the Healthy Communities Coalition conduct research and prepare any report, any findings, any recommendations that they may have pertaining to retail liquor stores and the sale of alcohol within Drayton Valley. Based on their work and a number of undertakings, earlier this year, the Healthy Communities Coalition produced a report that was provided to the town that basically came up with 3 recommendations, and those are summarized on page 45 of Council's agenda package. They were to, first, to reduce the number of liquor stores that are present in Drayton Valley currently. The second is to restrict hours of operation. And the third was to increase the current setback of liquor stores from a number of defined areas and aspects that are currently contained, and those are outlined on page 44 of the background in section 2.2.2, being school reserve lands, playground, or a daycare facility. In undertaking, following the receipt of this report and presentation of the recommendations, administration undertook a review of the recommendations. As is summarized in your background package, legal counsel did advise administration that a municipality cannot legally limit the number of businesses regardless of type. And so accordingly, the first recommendation that was brought forward is beyond the scope of council to address. The recommendation that talked about restricting hours of operation, currently within the land use bylaw, there are provisions that do allow council to consider hours of operation. So that is a legislative tool that currently council has at its disposal. That, in essence, left the third recommendation about increasing the current setback. The advice that was provided on the report did not indicate a specific recommendation from the Healthy Communities Coalition or from the individuals that they surveyed. Just the recommendation was that the current setback be increased. In the agenda package, what has been produced for council is the current offset, which is 100 meters, that has the effect of then showing, if you will, the available area that further application for a retail liquor establishment could be considered for. And in looking at a number of different options for council's consideration, administration has produced a further illustrative map, also in your agenda package, of what an increase would be to increase that setback to 150 meters. So that is included as well to allow for comparative analysis of what an increase to setback would mean. One other aspect that is contained, a secondary aspect not identified as a part of the work and the recommendations of the Healthy Community Coalition, but also just from feedback as we've been looking at this particular piece, is a secondary clause that would see retail liquor stores change from a discretionary use in commercial and industrial districts to a permitted use. So for purposes of the process going forward, and what's contained in the draft bylaw this morning for council's review is a draft bylaw that it's actually an amending bylaw to affect those two changes. So perhaps with that, I'll stop, Mr. Mayor, and if there's any other specific questions or aspects, administration can endeavor to answer those if a motion is put forward.
All right. Thank you. Is council disposed to making a motion here? Councillor Frederickson, it took some time.
I'll jump on that one.
Everybody's gung-ho for the
Jump on that grenade.
insurance of fun events motions, yeah.
First, so I move that council give first reading to bylaw 2017-09D, amendment of land use bylaw, amending bylaw 2012-5D, retail liquor store as presented.
Thank you, Councillor Frederickson. Any discussion on the motion? Councillor Dirksen, then Councillor Wheeler, then Councillor Frederickson.
I definitely appreciate the concerns that the residents had in bringing this to light. I mean, we can't limit the amount of liquor stores that we have in Drayton Valley, but I think the purpose of this would be to somewhat circumvent that law. And so I don't feel comfortable, making any changes to legislation, or sorry, not legislation, to our bylaws, kind of making it more difficult for businesses to operate in our town. And I'm definitely in favor of making it a permitted use, other than discretionary, but leaving the land setback at 100 meters. But maybe that's just my opinion on it, and I think we need to be more pro-business, and bylaws like this, I think, kind of fly in the face of that.
And then I think we had Councillor Wheeler, is that right?
I agree with making it a permitted use in the commercial district. I think that it's hard for council to sit here and say yes or no every time. I think it's more important to have what we think is safety for our community, with whether that's the setback at 100 or 150, and that if it's within that, then it's allowed. So I support that. I would be comfortable staying at 100. But yeah, I would like to see the change in the discretionary use.
All right, thank you. Councillor Bossert, did you have your hand? Okay, Councillor Frederickson and then Long, right?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to say thank you to the Healthy Communities Coalition for the work that they had done with bringing their recommendations forward, as well as to our planning department. The planning department has looked at other communities to see where their setbacks are, and also to see where we sit alongside other communities in number of liquor stores. There's a general opinion that we do have more than our share, but when we looked at it in comparison to other communities of similar size, we're actually right at the mean number, which was interesting to find out. The Healthy Community Coalitions, the work that they had done, I do appreciate. They had partaken many aspects of the community in a dinner and dialogue, including liquor store owners, restaurant owners that serve alcohol, youth, regular Joes, counselors, those kind of things, to engage in a discussion about alcohol in our community and how we see it affects our community, where underage drinking happens, how our community is responsive to underage drinking, and the like. So I do commend their work on this. I agree with Councillor Wheeler on the safety concerns. I was not sitting at the table during one of the two times that this liquor store bylaw, as it stands, was called into question. I was sitting at the table during the second time. And just looking at it from the business perspective, like Councillor Dirksen had brought up, I do support going from a discretionary to permitted. Personally, I don't feel that it is my role to make decisions on whether a business should be, I'm just trying to think of how I want to word this here. On the morality of a business, whether it should be located in this town or not. If it meets the setbacks and the requirements of our land use bylaw, they have just as much as right to be here as any other business that is looking to set up shop in town. So I do agree with us being pro-business. Definitely in the second time that we had a liquor store come forward, safety was something that had come up. There's definitely an outcry from the population in terms of accessibility of alcohol to our youth and exposure to youth in our community. For that reason, I do support the 150 meters, but we will see what comes to call as council.
All right, thank you. Councillor Long.
Thank you. I agree with Councillor Dirksen on this. However, there's always a however. This is just first reading, so that if we do go ahead with this, it opens it up for people to have that conversation and to get a sense of the mood of the community. The other thing that might be worth considering is, as we discussed a while back, we are going to be looking at the legalization of marijuana at some point in the next 12 months or so, which seems to be a related issue if somebody wants to open a store selling that. It might be easier to deal with all of this at the same time. I am not going to make a tabling motion at this point, but I put it out there.
Thank you, Councillor Long. I think when considering this, we have to contemplate a number of things. One is that Council engaged and requested the Healthy Communities Coalition to conduct this public engagement exercise on behalf of the town. Two is that this public engagement exercise in the form of the dinner and dialogue sessions and the public questionnaire is, I would wager to say, the most extensive public engagement exercise we have undertaken, certainly in this term, and since this council has undertaken public engagement more than any other council in my 20 years in Drayton Valley, I venture to say that we have a fairly accurate read of the public sentiment on these issues. Healthy Communities Coalition did not inject opinion. What they did do is provide evidence-based information and compiled that and presented the results of the public engagement. And so I think it's incumbent on us to act in, I hesitate to call this a timely manner because it has taken some time, but to wait another year in the expectation that the marijuana legislation may be here, and in the supposition that that they are similar issues and should be treated similarly, I don't think we ought to do that. I think that might potentially be avoiding one issue in favor of just putting it off to the future. Anything to do with marijuana will be taken by the council of the day when that legislation is passed by the federal government, and when the provincial governments have an effective regulatory framework in place. So I know everybody's saying, oh, in a year it'll all be on the streets and legal. I have my doubts about that. And in any event, we deal with it when it happens. It hasn't happened. This matter is something that has been of consequence, certainly to this council and previous councils over the past number of years. And so it's incumbent on us. There is absolutely no reason not to act now. And in fact, we'd be doing our community a disservice by not acting. I think I'd like to make just one additional point in considering this first reading, and that is the issue of permitted versus discretionary use. As Councillor Wheeler ably identified, it is what you do when you make certain developments discretionary is you're subjecting them to the whims of council of the day, which may or may not be swayed by logic, by emotion, by any number of factors at play. It's not to say that there are no valid discretionary use applications in our land use bylaw. There absolutely are. My feeling that in making it a permitted use, that would be the appropriate way to go. That recognizes that this business use is a legitimate business use, but it also presumes that we've got the rest of the bylaw right, and by extending the setback to the 150 meters, and you can quibble about the appropriate number of meters for the setback all day long, and you'd always be right, no matter what position you took. But in my judgment, I think we struck the appropriate balance here. And so I will end my comments there. Councillor Frederickson had something else?
I just wanted one other thing, and the mayor had touched on this, using the word quibble. I'm not sure if there was any magic in the 100 meters when this bylaw was first written. I'm not sure if there's any magic in the 150. I know there's other communities, and Ms. Martin had brought forward that there's some where they're up to 400 meters. There's some that are less than that. I guess my question I wanted to just bring forward to you, Ms. Martin, was are we overshooting the mark on this? Is there any magic in this?
Well, since the bylaw came out with the 100 meters, we've had 2 applications come forward. One of them met requirements, one of them didn't. So it's just in a matter of speaking, whether there's magic or not, it's just dependent on the location that they're wanting to go in. Being discretionary, it did cause some challenges, because we did have to refer it out to the adjacent landowners, and that did come back with some concerns. But going forward, if it happens to go to permitted uses, it's administratively the decision that we just have to enforce that, make sure that everything is to par and they're meeting everything that's in the land use bylaw.
Thank you. Councillor Wheeler?
Thank you. I do have a question on, which isn't specifically in here, the definition of playground. I'd like to know if someone can find that. And again, I know, like Mr. Long had said, this is just the initial reading, so this will be coming back. But when it comes back, I would like to know the definition of playground.
So do we have an answer, a definitive answer for that now?
I can't word it verbatim, but when I had reviewed it, it's talking about playground equipment, parks, or slide swings, that the typical playground that children play on.
So public or private?
It wasn't specified,
Okay.
but typically it's...
Okay, thank you. Councillor Dirksen.
Just out of curiosity, how many liquor stores would fall within that 150 meters and be in violation of our bylaw, and how would they be handled?
Currently, within that 150, Majority. A lot of them have been here for a lot of years, so they don't conform to the setback requirements as it is now. We have many that are across from schools. We have many that are within close to residential districts or even parks and playgrounds. It's just the newly developed ones, like the ones that are up in Commercial Village or Power Center Boulevard, they're the ones that meet the setback requirements, but the ones that have been, that are located downtown area, currently there's quite a few that don't meet them.
But I believe you also said they would not be impacted. To use a colloquial term, well, it's a term of art, but it's also a colloquial term, they'd be grandfathered.
That is correct, yeah, they would be. Oh, sorry, we have the definition of the playground right now.
Ooh,
Means an area used for outdoor play or recreation, especially by children, and containing recreational equipment such as slides and swings.
all right, thank you. Is there anything further before we call the question? All right, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Item 7.10 is the Debee Land Area Structure Plan. Mr. Dibben.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would refer council to beginning on page 54 of the council's agenda package and continuing on to page 77. Before council today is a recommendation to move to first reading of the Debee Land Area Structure Plan, bylaw number 2017-7D. Just by way of a bit of background, and this was, some of this is repetitive for council, and I apologize, but it was raised at part of this was raised at the last open GNP meeting. On July 18th, the town hosted an open house for area residents and other interested parties with regard to the draft area structure plan, largely similar to what council has in its package today, but with one noticeable augmentation, which I will speak to in a moment. The notice of this open house was mailed out to 664 residents within a 500-meter radius as per town's policy. This notice went out at the end of June. In addition to this mailed out notice, notifications were put on the town's website starting on June 28th. On the town's Facebook page on 3 separate occasions through the month of July, newspaper advertising as well. I would point out that the convening and holding of an open house is not a legislative requirement. This is something that we felt important to do. We felt was in keeping with council's commitment to openness and transparency, but also a furtherance of its both requirements and policy objectives as we move forward. Of the mail-outs that were there were approximately 20 individuals that attended the open house, not including staff and directly involved parties in the creation of the draft. The feedback received was mixed, as I don't think would surprise council when we're looking at establishing an area structure plan in an area of town that currently does not have an area structure plan covering it. The feedback covered the gamut of perspectives. That the Debee Lands, as council is aware, currently is largely an open field, an open area. It has been since the town purchased the lands in 2013. Currently, these lands are zoned as R1A, low-density residential. And the feedback that was received at the open house covered the gamut between a mix of planning for residential needs going forward. Certainly, there were differences in opinion as to the type of housing that should be afforded on the site. Some of the options that were put forward for feedback and comment included mixed from low to medium to high. had other options for a portion of the DB lands that included institutional use, that included mixed housing use, also a provision that as we take a look at longer-term housing objectives and densities, and given the topography of the area in town, that there may be the necessary provision of a storm retention pond for purposes of water collection and drainage. And of course, wanted to adhere to the perspectives of the fire department, that if we're looking at the addition of additional residents, about the provision of emergency services and how planning and roadways and different aspects can best accommodate what those needs and the eventual services to property would undertake. Part of these lands as well impact the Brazeau Seniors Foundation and Shangri-La Lodge. And also we have an active ARC site on town land. It's a current lease. But thinking about development objectives longer term, we need to contemplate the circumstance when that well may no longer be active and reclaimed. And then what that would, what the best uses could be for such land going forward. And certainly those that attended the open house had perspectives about green space and desires of the maintenance of green space and park space as well for those lands longer term. There were some questions just in terms of process and also in terms of plans and concerns that a passage of an area structure plan would mean the immediate move to development in the area. And certainly the town has the prerogative to act as the developer for these lands. But from an administration perspective, that is not something we are currently contemplating, to act as the developer for a variety of reasons. And so that was shared as well with those in attendance at the open house. There were questions about the DB lands, aspects around cost and use and requirements. And there is a comment in the draft area structure plan that makes specific reference to the one condition that a portion as part of the sales agreement that the town made with the owners of the land, which in our review we undertook and we indicated that was a purchase. It was not a donation or a gift of these lands to the town, and done under market terms of the day. But there is a provision that just under an acre of these lands needs to be park space, green space going forward. And in all of the maps and the plans and options that have been framed out, that condition is respected and adhered to, which is the only tangible requirement that the town agreed to in purchasing the land. At the open house, and now referring to the options that begin on page 74, labeled in the draft area structure plan, maps 6, 7, and 8 were on larger boards for attendees of the open house to review and comment on. Based on that commentary and perspectives that were brought forward, particularly around the type of housing mixes that were in those other three options, and what had been looked at as far as institutional use and particularly higher density, a fourth option has been devised since the open house that has not been seen prior to this, and that is map 9 that is on page 77. And so if council is agreeable to formally starting the reading and review process, it's proposed that map number 9 also be included. Our intention from administration, if this is proceeding, that we would advise those in attendance at the open house directly, as well as all through our other communication means and by mail as well, that the town is proceeding through the formal process. But we would also advise them of what has changed since the open house, and that would be the inclusion of map 9. So that they are aware and can give their consideration to that, whether or not that is a more palatable option from their perspectives that meets some of those objectives that were expressed at the open house or not. And then, depending on council's decision today on first reading, we would certainly then move to schedule the public hearing at a forthcoming date.
Thank you, Mr. Dibben. Jen, did you have anything to add to that? Okay. Councillor Bossert, were you prepared to make a motion? All right. Let's have it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that council give first reading to the Debee Land part of Northeast 8, 49-7, west of the 5th Meridian, Area Structure Plan Bylaw Number 2017-07D as presented.
Thank you, Councillor Bossert. And of course, this is only first reading. Councillor Frederickson.
I just have a question. The affordable housing houses that we have that would run adjacent to that land or along that
Talking
land.
about Cadence Court.
Is that
Cadence
the one there?
Court.
Yeah. Would that be classified as medium density or high density?
That is currently zoned R3, so it is medium density.
Councillor Bossert.
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor. I'm very glad to see this coming forward again. The use of these lands have been before council for some time. I know that when the town purchased the land, there was discussion about what we would use this land for in the future. And I'm very glad to see that this will come now to, if it passes, it will come to a public hearing, and the public will have even further input into the development of this lands. And we also have options about how that land would be developed by, and by whom. So I'm glad to see this come forward. I would ask that administration, when it does go to a public hearing, that the public is given definitions of the terms low density, medium density, high density residential, what those zoning codes actually mean. One residence up to 2, a duplex, fourplex, or high rise, so that when a person sees a map with 2 or 3 different residential codes on it, they know exactly how many units or lots there could be in that area, just for very clear identification to the public. And I look forward to hearing the public's response to these proposed area structure plan.
Councillor Wheeler.
Thank you. I appreciate that administration did the open house early just so we could get a little bit of feedback from the beginning. I think it's important to make sure we're kind of on the right page. I would like if maybe you could give a little bit of information on more the generality of an area structure plan and why we are doing it. That it doesn't necessarily mean that we're moving ahead with development on the whole property tomorrow.
The general purpose of an area structure plan is just to create a vision for how the town would like to see development happen in that area. We would like to set aside specific areas for residential or commercial or whatever it be in whatever area of town. It's just providing a framework, transportation routes, just a general idea of how we as a community want to see everything expanding, not just things just placed here, there, and everywhere, just kind of having more organized development.
Thank you. Councillor Frederickson.
Just to extend on what Councillor Bossert had said too, and I'm not, you do what you choose, but even to have visuals of what each of those densities look like or mean. I know I had been informed that when the Cadence Court affordable housing came up for discussion, there was a kickback from the community. But then once it was built and the way you see it and the way it looks, it doesn't look like how people would think of when they think of an affordable housing sort of development. And so just if we can give people visuals of examples in the community that we have already, whether they're town-owned ones, or whether they're private ones, so that people can have visuals of what we actually are looking at here. It's, it's not the projects or anything like that, just to be a little bit politically incorrect.
Anything further? Councillor Wheeler.
Yeah, the only thing I'd like to say is that there isn't a development plan for it. There isn't what it's going to look like or how it's going to happen. That will still come forward piece by piece when it happens. So I think, I understand wanting to show people, because you're right, but I don't think any of us know what it's going to look like.
You raise a good point, Councillor Wheeler, and I think it's important, and this is for the media's benefit, although some members of the public do become understandably concerned when they see diagrams that suggest one density of development over another. These are proposals. There are 4 different diagrams on offer here. An area structure plan is a tool, a legislative tool for municipalities to allow for orderly and aesthetically appropriate development in their communities. So it's intended to meet the needs of the community. It is not something that instantaneously creates development. There's still, after the area structure plan process, decisions from individuals who wish to build would need to be made, and subdivisions would need to be applied for, and so on. So there would be a good deal more public engagement that happens down the road before any actual development occurs. Mr. Dibbon.
Just further to the Deputy Mayor's question and request, and certainly appreciate Councillor Wheeler and Mayor McLean's commentary. I just point out on page, and this is now of the draft area structure plan, on pages 9, 10, and 11, in addition to the maps, was our efforts to also help to illustrate what the maximum parameters would be under each of these scenarios. So for instance, just pulling out one example, on the new map 9 that is there, it indicates that if low-density residents, they occupy what equates to a 3.5 acre portion of these lands, that would be enough for 25 to 35 lots, depending on lot width, and a little of over 2 acres for 30 to 40 duplex and fourplex units. So trying to also provide an additional layer to help residents and other interested parties attempt to do that. That would generally be where we stop unless the town was the developer and acting as such, and then looking to proceed into formal development activity.
Thank you. Councillor Frederickson, you have
Very
one more
last thing.
thing?
I do appreciate
Last
Councillor
thing.
Wheeler's comments. It is. I appreciate Councillor Wheeler's comments, and as well as the CAO's. I'm just operating as a visual learner. I'm a visual person, and the thing is that when people don't have visuals of some sort, they fill in the gaps with what they think that those visuals could look like or would look like. And I totally appreciate everything you're saying, and you're entirely correct in your comments. But that's just what I was looking at. I don't live and breathe in planning and development, and I'm just associating with people that possibly learn the same way I do. What does something like this look like? But
Thank you. Anything further? All right, all in favor? That is carried. Item 7.11, Accountability and Transparency Policy, C0117, and Public Consultation and Communication Policy, A0417. Legislative Services Coordinator, Chandra Dyke.
I'm back.
Yeah.
Would you like me to mention the election in the following?
If necessary. Yeah.
So before you are these 2 policies, which are established based on a direction from council that we wanted to be a little bit more transparent in our efforts to share the principles which guide both council and administration's approach to public consultation. In addition, under the new requirements of the Municipal Government Act, we are required to prepare and adopt a public participation policy. I have done some research on both of these aspects, and based on some of the good working principles that I've seen, I think we've established some draft documents here which espouse the principles of transparency, accountability, and encouraging public participation. We have approached that participation policy from a different perspective, being consultation and communication, simply because you can't require participation, but we can make best efforts to reach out to the community and ask for their feedback and their participation in the activities that we're conducting. So in terms of the open and transparent government, the accountability and transparency policy deals more specifically with council. It falls in line with the council code of conduct, the oaths that council swears when they are sworn in, and just elaborates on that for the public to understand those principles. There are two options that we're presenting to council today, either to approve the policies as they're being presented, or to allow administration to do some public consultation in terms of these policies prior to adoption. What we would then do is, through the town's website, the newspaper advertisements, social media, is make the public aware of these potential policies, ask for feedback, make them available so that anyone who is interested could review and provide their feedback, which would then come back to council for consideration.
All right, thank you. And does council wish to make a motion? Councillor Bossert?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that council direct administration to undertake public consultation for the accountability and transparency policy C0117 and public consultation and communication policy A0417, and bring forward comments to council on August 30th, 2017, at which time the policies may be considered for approval.
All right, thank you. And I think it's important to note, before we continue with discussion, as Chandra said, the public consultation and communication policy is something required by amendments to the Municipal Government Act, so it's required by provincial legislation. And the accountability and transparency policy is something as a I'll say it's kind of a preemptive tip of the hat to council. We haven't approved it yet, but this council has been more committed to accountability and transparency initiatives than any I've ever seen. That's not me. That's the whole council owns that. And I think it's important that our community see it and have the opportunity to pass judgment on these. Councillor Frederickson, you had a comment, question?
Yes, I appreciate the motion that was brought forward, and given the title of the policy being its accountability and transparency, it would make sense to bring it forward to the public. However, when I had looked into some aspects of this later last year, I myself was quite surprised to see what other communities across the country have brought forward for accountability and transparency. It was much more robust than what public rhetoric tended to lean towards in the 2013 election and onward. So I guess what I would just like to ask, pending that this motion does move forward, administration, is if we can give context to the public on what other communities are doing. Because the big thing with this is that, I mean, when people read this, they might be expecting some other large grandiose statement. But really what we're doing is we're providing an umbrella to show people what we are beholden to in terms of the Municipal Government Act, our other bylaws that we have in place, our financial obligations to the community, and the like. And I really, if we're asking for feedback from the community, I really want it to be an educated piece of feedback where they are fully versed in all of the aspects that we are accountable to, provincially, federally, and municipally. And that's my piece.
Thank you. Councillor Long?
Two questions, one of which may not be fair to ask you. The first question, August 30th is not much time. Is that enough time?
We can certainly look at extending that if council feels they want some additional time. That's
I would be looking for your opinion in your hands on that, Jennifer.
I'm fine. However council wants to proceed, that gives us 2 rounds in the local paper. But
I suppose,
I don't know that, the public may wish to have additional time, and we can certainly accommodate that.
And the other thing that crosses my mind, because this is our policy and we're able to amend it going forward, is, and this isn't a fair question for you, so I'll just put it out there. If we were to pass this as it stands, because it looks pretty good, and we can always amend it with feedback from the public once it's in place and once people have a sense of what it's about.
So that's out there. Was there anything further in terms of discussion? Mr. Dibben?
I might take an inelegant stab at responding to the unfair question. In terms of just the first, though, on timeframe, going forward and going out there for a couple of weeks, if we are mindful that it is the summer, depending on the volume of feedback, we will certainly let council know on the 30th, which is the proposal, you know, the extent of the feedback that was there, and council at its prerogative may wish to extend. And that would be a wholly acceptable approach along those lines as well. One of the aspects in terms of the feedback is there, part of the struggle for administration in trying to put a draft forward is to find that balance between the appropriate level of policy and not getting down into areas that are more appropriately under procedures or specific practices, or get down into too great a degree of specificity or detail. So it is a balancing act, Councillor Long, in terms of at what level. It's a perfectly legitimate expectation, anticipation that some members at public feedback may want to be more specific, may want to drive forward, and our balance efforts, and quite frankly our interest as well from administration, is to trying to kind of balance that edge, and in the matter of there are always thoughts and perspectives that more can be done and better can be done, and invariably that's true, but there also has to be the balance brought to bear of making forward progress and providing the proper framework under which these activities will be governed. It's an initial approach. And, you know, to augment the measures that have already been put in place by council in this domain. And, you know, we may have it right, and commentary and feedback may that we don't have it right. And so we look forward to what that might bring.
Thank you very much. Anything further? All right, all in favor? That is carried. At this, well, just prior to calling a short break, I want to thank Councillor Frederickson for her earlier work in the drive to bring forward the accountability and transparency policy as an initiative. It's something that Council thinks is important to reflect the mood in the community, and anything that enhances the state of our democracy is a welcome development. So at this point, I'll call the department reports. 8.1, Engineering and Development. Sonia.
In development, there was 10 development permits issued. 5 were residential, 4 were commercial, and 1 institutional, and 7 business licenses. 5 were local and 2 were out of town. In engineering, we're happy to announce that the second lift of 43rd Avenue is complete as of last night, and they've moved on to completing Mackenzie, hopefully today.
Excellent. You're ending on a high note. That's good. That's good planning. Thank you. 8.2, Community Services and FCSS. Ms. Dreesen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. Just a few things that I'm going to report on. One is just reminder, on August 31st, we will have a presentation by Jacob Comor from Revolve Engineering on the net zero study for an aquatic facility. The committee has spent quite some time making sure that this report is reflecting what we hope will be the necessary requirements, looking at the technical aspects of a new facility to try and get us into an operational and capital picture and environment that is going to be meeting our needs as well as matching our resources. I know that Councillors Wheeler and Frederickson may wish to report a bit more on that, so I will just simply remind Council again, August 31st at 1 o'clock at the Mackenzie Conference Centre. Both councils have been extended the invitation to attend, and be prepared to ask a number of questions, as the report is definitely very technical in nature. But looking forward to it. Really looking forward to that date. I want to go back to something that happened July 2nd, and I'm really, it was unfortunate I was not able to be there, but just want to make mention about the Voyageur Rendezvous event that happened July 2nd. I'm sure the council had received a report already, and I'm not too sure what was commented on, but I just wanted to comment on the fact that the main coordinator for the entire event, all the way from Rocky Mountain House to the Pond, Manitoba, commented that the celebration in Drayton Valley was the best along the entire route, from beginning to the end as well. So I really want to make sure that we give an excellent thank you to the paddling club, and especially Elaine Tamboline. That organization really picked up, and Elaine just spent countless number of hours putting everything together to make that event successful. A thank you to the Community Foundation for allowing us to have access to some Community Foundation grants through the Canadian Foundation as well as our local. And with that help, and of course with town and county funding, and of course a ton of volunteer time through the Paddling Club and other volunteers, that event is below budget. So that's also nice. Last thing is just simply a workshop happening November 17th. It's called Sorting Through Hoarding Workshop. Now, some people might think that is something that's not an issue or a matter that is prevalent in our community, but I think it's always one of those hidden secrets as well, too. So this workshop is being hosted through FCSS, and participants to the workshop will get an understanding of what hoarding behavior is, including some understanding of the underlying issues. They'll also learn some communication skills that deal with hoarding situations. So it's not necessarily for those that are identified with this issue and this situation, but those who might know, whether it's family members or friends, some tools in terms of how to deal with it. So it's intended not just for those with family or friends, but also human service professionals who might be in a situation of experiencing it. Fireplace, emergency, medical, public health, because again, sometimes first responders are the first ones to see those situations. So that information is out. That's November 17th, 9 to 4:30 that entire day through FCSS. And that's my report for now.
Sure.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. And I echo your comments regarding the Voyageur Rendezvous. It was a wonderful spectacle for our community, and well done to the Drayton Valley Paddle Club for organizing it. We will move on to Economic Development. Eric Burton.
Good morning.
Morning.
So I want to highlight one of the key things that we've accomplished recently, and to spend a couple minutes giving a high-level assessment of it. We've completed the market assessment for hemp as part of the hemp cluster project. This was the first major component of the hemp cluster project, and is actually the source of intel for the others. So just to explain that a little bit, our broader goal is to try to leverage local talent, creativity, and investment to support entrepreneurs in diversifying the economy. So what we set out to do is identify what emerging markets are available for entrepreneurs to move into. And hemp is a particularly important sector because Drayton Valley has a unique industrial asset. So the first step was to do a market assessment to gather the most leading cutting-edge information on the market. And the second step then is to give that market intelligence to entrepreneurs in the community so that they can assess the opportunities themselves and start to build businesses in that space. The third component is to give that market intelligence to local investors so that they are able to identify and assess the opportunities and be prepared to invest in local businesses. So this market assessment piece is really critical, and I'm very pleased to say that we have completed it, and we've completed it both on time and significantly under budget. It included 3 key components. First was an overview of the market. The second was detailed interviews with key stakeholders. And the third was the completion of the report. And that report will now be developed into an entrepreneur training module to share with entrepreneurs and investors. Without getting into detail, the assessment did a really good job of an overview of the whole market, okay? And it's a challenge because it's an immature market. There is not all sorts of existing data. So for example, in a mature market, you could say, what is the quantity that you're looking for, and what is the price point that you want to pay? Well, in this case, people haven't considered whether they would use this product or not, right? So you're not able to get really hard data and responses from businesses. So there's a lot of maturation that is required, but at the same time, that is happening fairly rapidly. So we did get a lot of detailed insight into the segmentation of the market, and that is in 2 key ways. First of all, in different sectors. So for example, erosion control matting versus automobile, different sectors. We got a good understanding of what the different sectors look like, but also different tiers. And this is really important. So the first tier is products that are basically already. They're closer to raw materials. Like, so a fiber mat, erosion control matting would be a tier 1, right? And this is ready to go to market. Whereas a piece for an airplane is a tier 3, right? So that's a higher end. And so the key is that they have to take a tiered approach, because the higher end, while there may be a lot of opportunity there, it is will take a lot of time for that market to fully mature. So included in the market assessment is a go-to-market strategy that can help entrepreneurs. Also some advice on how to build a cluster in Drayton Valley, in particular focusing on a value chain approach. And the one piece that I think will stand out is that the assessment of the market is that what's most important is the management of the business, not the quality of the product, right? Because this is an immature market, what it requires is entrepreneurs who are seasoned, who understand business, and who are able to move into a new sector. And this is, I think, a really important piece for Drayton Valley, because we do have a wealth of entrepreneurs with experience in business, right? And so we can support those entrepreneurs in moving into this sector and leverage their many years of experience in sectors such as oil and gas. So now, I mean, that is the 2-minute overview. As I said, we'll be developing this into a program, and we're looking at a number of tactical ways to do that in the coming weeks. But I'm really excited about this. It gives wind in the sails, and it does confirm that that hemp does present a lot of unique opportunities. Now, to be sure of that, the local BCG has already hired staff directly as a result of this, purchased 3 pieces of equipment. They've contacted a wide range of potential business partners, and they've also got approval from Building Canada Innovation Program, which is worth $500,000 to field test their erosion control matting. So these are some of the clear outcomes that came directly from this market assessment. And that is the report on economic development today.
Thank you very much, Eric. Questions? Councillor Frederickson.
Would this be something that those of us on council who are not on the Economic Development Committee be able to have a look at as well, just so that we can get a better understanding?
Yeah, so we are going to be definitely bringing it forward. We're working through exactly how we want to create a profile for the material, because it is unique material, but that will be coming forward in the next few weeks here.
All right, thank you. Anything further? It's good progress. Thanks. Thanks very much for sharing that. All right. Emergency Services, Chief Thompson.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor, Council. Not a lot to report this morning, other than we have the kids camp coming up next week, so we will be welcoming 40 kids from ages 8 to 12 years coming to our fire hall and spending a week with us. So we're looking forward to that, and it'll be a lot of fun. We're also inviting council to the barbecue and graduation ceremony on the Friday, August 18th. So if you are free, we would more than welcome you to come and participate. And that's all I have. Any questions?
Sounds good. Thanks very much. It's an excellent program. So, Councillor Frederickson, you had a question?
This may have been asked at the last council meeting, since it was kind of more of a paramount issue then. Have our staff at all been affected by the BC fires at all? Like, have we sent support or anything along those lines? Or been asked to?
Early on, when the fires were raging, the provincial emergency operations center put out a request to all the departments to make a list of any equipment that would be available in the event that that it was required. The fire service here did that and sent it off. However, at this point in time, there's been no request for any services from any departments in Alberta. Another part of that, if you recall from Fort McMurray last year, there also was a request for heavy equipment, like bulldozers and all of that kind of stuff. That has not been offered at this point in time. We have not had to provide that list, but if that becomes available, we will definitely have that available for the operations center.
All right. Anything further? All right. Thanks very much. Administration, Communications and Marketing, Tyler Russell.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor and Council, Administration as well. Here's our report for the Communications and Marketing Department for this morning. Starting with our website, between the last council meeting and this council meeting, which is about 3 weeks, we had about a 10,000 page view, which is a little bit down. It is during the summer, so we do get a little bit lower in the page views. Also, we are doing continued maintenance and consolidating a number of our menus to make them more accessible, always constantly trying to be able to change things up and make sure that people can find things. Also, the top ways, and I thought this is a great statistic, the top ways that our website is being accessed is through our organic search. 81% of people are finding our website through there, which is a great, for people hear the term SEO, search engine optimization. When that comes up, 81% is a very, very good number. Also, directly to our website, 12%, which is people are just putting in DraytonValley.ca. Also, we do have our referrals, which means other websites that are linked to our website, 4% are coming through that area, and then through social media, around 3%. Through our social media, we're continuing to having promotion of our summer programs. There's a lot of activities still happening, even though we only have about a month of summer left. Also, we've seen about a 2% increase in our Facebook likes, 2% in our Twitter, and Instagram seems to be our largest increase, at a 10% increase between July and August. Also, our reach on social media has actually been really, really good over the last month and a bit, about 20,000 people that we've been able to reach. Our highest amount of activity, which people wonder when and why and how I post, it is very important. Our biggest active users are Wednesday, followed by Thursday, and then on Friday. And based on our posts, our most effective posts that we do have out there that is part of social media are links and then photos, and then also if you just put a just general status, we notice that not as many people are being exposed and there's as much reach. And with our strategies, we of course are implementing a number of strategies throughout the entire month of August and into September. And that is my report.
Thank you. Any questions? Councillor Bossert.
Thank you, Tyler. I just wanted to say I'm on Facebook a fair bit, just watching information come through the community. And I think that what has been put out on behalf of the town of Drayton Valley, updates on Mackenzie Avenue, water issues, parks and playground programming, has been very good this summer. It's enabled me to share more what's going on in the community. So I commend you and all those that have had a hand in posting that information for the community. It's been very helpful.
I will definitely relate to our department, for sure. Thank you.
Anything further? No, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Dibbon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Most of my report has been reflected in Council's agenda earlier today with a number of the items. The only other comment and a couple of words I want to make today is just in relation to last week's tragic occurrence. I want to start by extending my thanks to the Mayor and indeed all members of Council, as well as members of town staff and others, with respect to their efforts, their words, their support, notes of encouragement in the days that have followed since last Thursday. I know Council would understand that this has impacted all members of town staff, certainly some more deeply than others. And many of our broader staff family, beyond parks and public works staff, are dealing with grief and a sense of loss, as well as a sense of responsibility and questions that occur about what happened and why, and questions that at present simply can't be answered, or we do not know the facts and the reasoning and all that transpired last week. The town will continue to cooperate with the active and ongoing investigation by Occupational Health and Safety and any other matters that are related to that, wherever that takes us. And understanding that it takes time and unfortunately never is undertaken as quickly as anyone would like to bring a sense of understanding, if one can be found, to circumstances that just defy logic and conventional understanding. I join the Mayor and Council in the words that have been shared today and previously by the Mayor to the family, of extending our deepest sympathy and condolences to the family, and can only wish them comfort and the fondest of memories in the days that follow, that we know will not be easy or readily undertaken by any of those that are affected. The memorial service is tomorrow afternoon at 1 at the Mackenzie Conference Center. We anticipate that Parks Public Works will be closed for the afternoon to allow attendance by all of those direct staff. And then depending on other members of staff and aspects, it may have operational impacts on other elements of town operations, but we will ensure that emergency needs of different aspects are responded to. And I just would close by, again, extending my thanks to the Mayor and Council for your ongoing support of the staff and for your kind thoughts and prayers going forward. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. We'll move on to council reports now. Councillor Long.
Thank you. I just want to start by saying that I've been reflecting myself on the events of last Thursday, and nothing useful, unfortunately, to add except for all those affected, particularly family, have been very much in my thoughts for the last week and will continue to be so going forwards. A couple of weeks I attended the FCSS tour, which seems like a long time ago now, but I believe is in this the window that we're looking at. As former chair of that body, it's always interesting and satisfying, I think, to see a lot of the projects that have been supported through the years continuing to flourish and prosper. So a good day out, although it rained. perhaps better planning next year. The Economic Development Committee has already touched on, or more than touched on, given a very thorough rundown. The only thing I would add there is that we are starting to think, Councillor Dirksen and myself, time's getting, there's an election in October apparently, so attempting to wrap up, and we'll be trying to deliver to Council or possibly to GNP some kind of summation of where we're at, where we'd like whoever takes over those roles to focus their attention going forward. So we'll try and wrap that up. And the only other thing that I've done was I attended, on behalf of Councillor Bossert, the Homelessness and Poverty meeting yesterday, which was brief, but energetic and interesting. No big announcements yet. No. I'll conclude there.
All right, thank you. Especially appreciative of the suggestion that the committee prepare a report for council on activities and go forward ideas. So I think all of our committees are probably in the one stage or another of doing that very same thing. So that's great. Councillor Dirksen.
I don't have a whole lot to report. The EPAC and Eagle Points are off for the summer right now, and we've already touched on the Economic Development Committee. One thing I did want to bring up, so August 3rd, I was driving through town with my children, and I noticed a pop-up market outside of Brian's, and it was put on by the owners of Brian's, and I decided to stop by. And I think it's it's kind of reflects on a lot of work that administration, council, a lot of people within the community are moving in the right direction with these kind of events. And luckily for me, I was able to purchase something for my anniversary, which was 3 days later, because I am not very good at planning. So it worked out really well for me. And I believe they're planning on having another one August 17th. And they're hoping to have even more people attend, and so something to kind of watch out for, and I think it's a positive sign of where the town is headed.
Thanks very much. Councillor Frederickson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've been on a lovely family vacation for the month of July, so I don't really have much to report. When I got back here last Saturday, I had the opportunity to volunteer at our museum. And the young lady there is a bit of a workhorse. We got to do up some displays. Right now they're celebrating the history of the Rocky Rapids store and stores in Drayton Valley area. So we got to do displays as well as go through the tedious task of cataloging, like, some of their compartments, they have bones of animals, and there's hundreds of these things that each need a separate number, and they need to be measured and written about. And it is definitely, museum work is for a particular personality. I'm more of the tour guide person rather than doing the cataloging. There was a couple people that came in. There's a family from Devon, actually, and there was a lady and her husband from Edmonton who come out to the area on an annual basis, and they either stay at Willie West. Right now they were staying at the Drayton Campground. They had lots of positive things to say about that, but it was nice to see that there was legitimate tourists in the community, so that was kind of cool. And that's my report.
It's nice to get legitimate tourists for a change. Yeah. The illegitimate ones. Yeah. Thank you. Councillor Wheeler.
It's been pretty quiet, same thing. FCSS tour, we have had some sustainability meetings, still working on the draft plan, and our aquatic facility meeting, which I am very excited for August 31st to see our net zero come forward. We have been working very hard to make sure that there are lots of options moving forward for the future so that we can really get what works best for our community. So I hope everyone can attend, and it's open to the public, so please come and join us and see what's going on.
All right, thank you. Councillor Bossert.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My last 3 weeks have been fairly quiet. As Councillor Wheeler's just mentioned, we've had a sustainability meeting on the 31st of July and continued to review the draft of the the draft of the draft. Again, we'll come to council in short time, I'm sure. The majority of my time these last 3 weeks have been in the planning of my daughter's wedding and the acquisition of a shiny new son-in-law, and the physical and emotional recovery thereafter. Was a wonderful event, and we had over 40 legitimate tourists enter our neck of the woods from Eastern Canada. My son-in-law's family is all from Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and Newfoundland, and there was approximately 40 of them that flew in for the event. So, yay, tourists. So that's been the focus of my time the last 3 weeks. I also would like to report that our Syrian refugee family welcomed a new child on August 2nd. We have a little girl. I am the new adopted grandma of another girl. This is their 4th daughter, and we wish them well. As some council has expressed, I also like to express my condolences to the family of our employee, Tyson. I can't imagine the depths of grief that they are experiencing at this time, and my prayers and thoughts continue to be with them. Thank you.
Thank you. Over the past few weeks, it has been light in terms of extraordinary meetings. My day-to-day routine hasn't changed very much, so as a result, nothing unusual or extraordinary to report. I will move on to the information items. The Drayton Valley and Area Legacy Society minutes from July of 2017. Councillor Wheeler's conference report for Renewable Cities Conference 2017. Brazeau Foundation minutes from June 2017, Sustainability Committee meeting notes of July 2017, and the Economic Development Committee meeting notes from June of 2017. Could I get a motion to receive those as information, please? Councillor Frederickson, all in favor? That is carried. And could I get a motion to adjourn? Councillor Long, all in favor? We are adjourned.